Pranams, namaste, and greetings. Today we are going to talk about self-improvement, number 5, and that is how we can use our emotions in the proper way. In the earlier part, I had mentioned IQ, EQ, and SQ. Last time in that part, we spoke about IQ, intelligence quotient. And today it is emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. These days, it is not enough to have only the IQ, which is very high. For your job, for your promotion, for your success, people will also ask for your EQ. Many senior managers are sent for emotional intelligence training programs because to handle people, to handle relationships, you require emotions. And to take yourself in the right direction with the right attitudes and the right mindset, you require proper regulated emotions. Usually from childhood, we find that we are being told you should get a good rank, you should get a good degree, and then you should get a good job. Then you have wonderful family life. You have a husband or a wife or children, and complete everything you have. But still you find in some cases, we hear that a person who's apparently very successful suddenly commits suicide. That means the emotional intelligence is zero. The EQ is non-existent. Such a person is not capable of living a balanced life, an efficient, proper life, well-regulated life. So what we need to do is that we should pay attention to our emotions. Indians are supposed to be very emotional. What does it mean? It means that we are very often using emotions wrongly. Where a 10 rupee note is needed, we use a 100 rupee note. Where 100 is good enough, we use 500 or 2000. That means we might be wasting our emotions. Or sometimes we are very stingy with our emotions. We do not like to expend our emotions even where it is needed. So what I would suggest, is that all of us look through, if you want self-improvement, try to look through your emotions. Try to measure how intelligently you are using emotions. 3 levels are there for guaranteeing emotional intelligence. But remember, just by listening to these ideas, nothing happens. You need to practice. You need to become aware. You need to constantly be vigilant so that your emotions are going in the right direction. First is that you have to recognize emotions. Emotions are all around. We feel emotions, others feel emotions. So have you ever listed all these emotions? Love or hatred, anger, jealousy. Very often we find all this. Excitement, we also find this. These days, everybody is doing courses on happiness. So again, joys and sorrows, then depression, suffering, pain, hurt. All these are also emotions. Forgiveness or revenge. These are also, the feeling of revenge, the feeling of forgiveness. Then you have compassion, gratitude, cruelty, ingratitude, patience, impatience. So many, one can go on listing all the emotions. So recognize that there are these emotions. Do not ignore emotions. Do not think that you are unemotional or others are unemotional. Every human being has emotions. So when you encounter an emotion, please stop and face that emotion. That is the first one, recognize. The second is to respect emotions. You must be able to respect your own emotions and the emotions of others. This is for the good health of the emotions. You must remember that to be emotionally healthy is very important. Emotional ill health leads to physical and mental ill health. So we have to always keep our emotions healthy. That is what comes from respecting emotions. First, recognizing. Make a list. I'm feeling this emotion now. Interest or disinterest. I'm feeling interested. I'm very passionate that we should all improve ourselves. Self improvement continues to the last minute of your life. So, recognizing emotions is one way of going towards self improvement. Respecting emotions is important. We don't only respect our emotions, we respect others also. Now, if somebody is saying that you are very good, how do you feel? You feel very joyous, emotional, but you often keep silent. That is not respecting the emotion. You enjoy that joy. You say, oh, I'm feeling so happy because somebody praised me today. Don't become egoistic. Then it is again emotional imbalance. Feel happy, say thank you. Somebody scolds you, you feel hurt. Then recognize that emotion. Today, because somebody scolded me, I'm feeling hurt. No problem if you're feeling hurt. Then what you need to do is you need to respect your feeling of hurt. Oh, today somebody said terrible things, I'm hurt. But should I allow this hurt to bring out negative emotions? Where very often we feel revenge. You say, I will also hurt that person. That is not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is if somebody says bad things to me, I feel hurt. So when I say something bad, I must control myself because that person will feel hurt. I should not hurt anybody. I should recycle my feeling of hurt and come out of the depression or the sorrow which my feeling of hurt makes me feel. We should be able to express that, yesterday you told me such a thing, then you made me very hurt. Please don't say such things to me. That is the way in which we respect emotions in others. Somebody said, Madam, I'm very sensitive. That is a terrible emotion. I said, no, sensitivity is a wonderful emotion. If you are sensitive towards others' requirements, that is a positive emotion. If you're sensitive towards yourself, that means you're shy. That is not a good emotion because you are selfish. That is not a good emotion. So, like that, we have to see in which context what is a good emotion. For instance, the great philosopher Aristotle taught us that anger is not always a negative emotion. If you are angry in the right place, with the right person, in the right amount, and the right reason, then it is good anger. He called it righteous anger, dharmic anger. Anger which has dharma, which has goodness. So we cannot say that any emotion is good or bad. We think love and affection are very good. But imagine how many crimes are committed by saying love. This is not affection at all. If you ask a poor person, why you're so poor, why do you have 10 children? Because I love children, that is why I have 10. But are you not cruel that you cannot feed those children whom you have given birth to? You cannot educate them, you cannot give them a good life. Then how can you say you love children? Actually, you hate children, you are cruel to children. That is why you gave birth to so many children. When we start thinking like that, self-improvement comes. We need to constantly evaluate our emotions. Now, the third point, first, recognize, second, respect, third is regulate. Regulate means to control. How to put the correct amount of emotion in everything. Very often we are influenced by movies. You see, if a person, there's a scene where a person dies in a movie, everybody starts crying loudly. Now, unfortunately, in somebody's life, in real life, such a situation happens. That person cannot cry. So everybody comes and says, see, this person has lost the mother or father. She's not crying or he's not crying because they're quite happy that the person has died. That is not true. Our outward show is no judge for emotion. We need to regulate. That is, sometimes, you have to do so many things that you don't have time for sorrow. Sorrow comes many days later, many years later. So you can imagine how the emotion which people are able to see is not the emotion which is actual. This is called regulating. How much emotion to use where? If you have regulator in all the machines which we buy, the electronic goods which we buy, that is, they regulate themselves. They have the regulator to fix temperature, etc. But we have a regulator to fix our emotions. We don't seem to do that. People fighting with each other shows that they are not able to control their emotion. People who are, killing each other, they don't know how to control emotions. Good youngsters who are going in the wrong way, becoming activists, becoming terrorists, that means they are misusing their emotions. They are not able to regulate their emotions. So you can imagine, for a safe and healthy society, every individual should be emotionally intelligent. Your emotional quotient should be very high. Only then you will be able to make a good society, a good world. And for this, each of us has to look at our own self-improvement program and measure. And these three items we have to consciously look at. I'll give you the example of Sri Rama, who is called as Maryada Purushottam. Many people these days say that Rama was a terrible person, so cruel to Sita. But is it really true? I don't believe that he was cruel to Sita. He had emotional regulation. He knew how to control his emotions. He had great love for Sita. We know that, when Sita is lost, she is kidnapped, he was the one to cry and cry and cry and search for her. But he knew that love is on one side, duty is on one side. So he did not want the Agni Pariksha for himself because he loves her. He wanted the Agni Pariksha for society. Very often, we cannot show our emotions outside. We cannot show all emotions clearly. Therefore, we have to regulate, we have to choose. He wanted the whole world to have that report card. He didn't want the report card. He knew, he had trust, but the world would not believe and the world would criticize them. Therefore, as the ruler, he could not be criticized by anybody. Then they would lose respect for him. So he respected the emotion of love. He respected the emotion of duty. He regulated the emotion of love and he superimposed the emotion of duty. So you see how he recognizes the emotions. He respects the emotions and then he regulates the emotions also. Same thing happens again when he sends Sita to exile. When he sees his sons, for the first time, grown-up boys, the twins whom Sita gives birth to in his absence. But you can imagine that his emotions, which are private emotions, he does not bring to the public spheres. This is emotional intelligence. Suppose you are the group leader and your friend is in the group. The friend does something terrible. You say, oh, it is my friend, so I cannot scold my friend. Your friend does something good. You say, oh, how can I praise my friend? I feel embarrassed. He's my friend. She is my friend. So we cannot do like that. You must remember that emotions are very important only as long as they are within control. When the emotions become out of control, then all the evil in the world takes place. You see all the crimes, you see everything which is negative, you look at corruption, you look at everything that is happening which is wrong in the world. You will find at the bottom of all this, it is the emotional imbalance. So when we talk about emotional quotient or EQ, then we have to bring the EQ to that level where we respect emotions, we recognize emotions, and we also regulate emotions. Then, in a real life examples, you can look at the real life examples. Your parents tell you, don't stay out late, don't look at your cell phone all the time, don't do this, don't do that. You get very upset. That's an emotion. You say, oh, because I'm young, my parents are so strict. When I become old, I will show them. Remember, when you become old, you realize that your parents were saying all these points only to make you a better person, to make you a better human being. For your improvement, they were doing. Today, I'm talking to you about self-improvement. But can you imagine the hard work your parents have put in to make you improved already? Already you are on that level from where you are beginning the process of self-improvement. And this was done by your parents, by being strict, by telling you don't do this or don't do that. But there are some parents who are using emotional pressures to make a mess of their children's life. That also we see in real life. A student comes, says, every time I'm failing in the exam because I did not want to do this course. My parents said they wanted to do this course. They could not do it. Now they want me to do. I hate this course. So parents should never do like that. Because your children love you, you cannot make them do something which they dislike only because they have to fulfill their loyalty towards you. Such examples you will find by the hundreds. You must keep searching for these real life examples. For every example of an emotion, you should first identify the emotion, recognize. Then you see, is this experience of the emotion respectable? Can I respect this emotion? Or should I say that if this emotion was done like this, it would be respectable? Then third is regulate. Look at the emotional level and say, is it within a level which is controlled or has it gone beyond the control? It's like the pressure cooker, pressure is there, then the safety valve bursts and all the place is scattered with whatever was inside the cooker. Very often, the regulator is that safety valve. It keeps our emotions within control. You're feeling very excited. You say, oh, I got the greatest success in my life. And your excitement is such that you are not able to control yourself. Remember, this is what the Bhagavad Gita says. In one of the shlokas, it says that in sorrow, don't be very disheartened. That means don't be very, very low in a sorrow. In happiness, in joy also, don't be so high. So these low and high of your mood are controlled by emotions. So if you really want to be a complete human being, what they call sthita prajna, if you want to be a sthita prajna, sthita is steady, stable. If you want to be a person with that steadiness, that stability, that balance, that mindset, then do not allow these emotions to sway your mind. Remember that, Bhagavad Gita is a manual of self-improvement. Anybody who wants to do some self-improvement, the laboratory is yourself and the manual is there. Do you remember your science classes? You used to go to the laboratory with a lab manual, look at the manual and do all the exercises. So like that, you will have Bhagavad Gita as your manual and yourself as the laboratory. You carry out the experiments of all the points of self-improvement, which we are doing every week, once a week. And then you will find that you yourself can measure your improvement. You don't really have to wait for others to tell you, you have become such a wonderful person, because you can see that self-improvement. Now, an example of the respect and the balance and the regulation in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see. You can read this story in his life, the story of the death of his nephew, a very young boy, Akshay. So when the little boy died, Sri Ramakrishna laughed and, he was very happy because he knew that life is something which is supposed to be, mortal. It dies, it ends. So he was looking at the spiritual point of view that, the spirit was locked up in the body. Now the spirit has become independent. So he was joyous because he was seeing that independence. Then he says, the next day I cried. I felt as though somebody was wringing my heart like we wring a wet cloth. When we wash the cloth, you will see how we have to remove the water from that washed cloth. He says, so much sorrow I felt. So Sri Ramakrishna is recognizing joy and sorrow for a single incident, that is the death of the nephew. Both possibilities are there. He is respecting them. He's saying that, why did he feel joy? Why did he feel sorrow? Both of them he is respecting, he's rationalizing. Then he is controlling both of them by giving us a lesson. He's teaching us emotional intelligence by giving this lesson to us. If you look at many stories, one of the parables, I already told you last time about the parables of Sri Ramakrishna. One parable is there, which is a wonderful story for emotional intelligence. You can use it for many skills. I'm using it today for emotional intelligence. There is a weaver who has beautiful colored threads in her room. A friend comes to visit her and she sees those beautiful colored threads and she gets very attracted. She gets tempted. So as soon as the friend says, oh, you have come, I'm so happy, I will get you something, and goes to the inside room, she steals that. So you can imagine all the emotions that are coming, the temptation, the desire, all this is making her steal. Then she hides it like that. The friend comes. She looks at all the thread and she knows, oh, one thread is lost. Then she cannot ask the friend. Again, see emotions. To the friend, you're supposed to be affectionate. To the friend, you're supposed to trust. You can't be distrustful to the friend. You cannot be rude to the friend because the friend is a guest in your house. So all these emotions come to her mind. And from these emotions, an idea comes. Remember IQ I told you? If you keep thinking, your IQ improves. You have to think rationally. You have to think correctly. Link it with IQ and EQ for this story. Then she thinks of an idea. She says, my friend, I'm so happy you have come today. Let us both dance together. Then she raises both her hands and she starts dancing. The friend can't dance with both hands because the hidden thread is under her arm. So she raises only one hand and she dances. Then the friend says, why? She's scared, Fear is a very, very powerful emotion that her friend will know that she has stolen. She still doesn't know. She doesn't understand the friend's idea of dancing that the friend already knows. The fear, the emotion of fear is in her mind. She's not recognizing, she's not respecting, she's not regulating. She's not doing any of these things. Whereas the other friend is recognizing and respecting and regulating. Imagine her irritation, her anger, her suspicion, all these she has controlled. And she's saying, let us enjoy and dance. So what is this enjoyment and dance? Immediately she knows that that thread is hidden. The guest says, sorry, I cannot dance with both hands. You dance with both hands, I will dance with one hand. The story ends there. It is clear who has emotional intelligence and who doesn't have. You can easily analyze these two when you read this story. Such things, you see movies, you see advertisements, you see so many examples of emotional intelligence. You see the behavior of people in your house, in your neighborhood, in your school and college, in your office. You will find emotional intelligence or the lack of emotional intelligence. Both of these teach you a lesson, because when you have emotional intelligence, you can learn. When you don't have, also you can learn. One day, Holy Mother was crying loudly. People said, oh, everybody thinks she's Devi, then why is she crying? The mother said, to cleanse your inside, sometimes you must give out the emotions. The emotions become clean if you bring it out like that. So a poor woman's child had died, nobody to her, but she was cleaning her emotions. This also we learn from the theory of drama, which is Greek drama. It says catharsis. Catharsis is removal. So if you see a lot of violence in the stage, in a drama, then you get rid of your desire for violence. That is why there are so many negatives in our movies. They show terrible things. Unfortunately, people in society are not using emotional intelligence. They are not seeing that and saying, I shouldn't do it. It seems one person went to rob the bank. Then everybody asked, why are you doing it? They said, oh, I saw it in a movie. So if the movie shows you robbing, how to rob a bank, actually the message is, don't rob a bank. How many of us can take this positive lesson in emotional intelligence from a negative scene in a drama or in a movie? This is where regulation becomes important. That is why I have called these as self-improvement. Nobody else needs to tell us these things. We have to tell ourselves. Best of friends, family members quarrel with each other and don't talk to each other. Don't you think they are childish, immature? They are emotionally imbalanced. Real emotional quotient would mean that, even if you fight and shout, you apologize. You say, I'm sorry, I don't know why you fought with me, why I fought with you. That shows a maturity. That is what is emotional intelligence. We can have emotions which causes very good. Emotions, if you are able to sacrifice everything for others. Many of us sacrifice for our family. That is not good enough. Can you sacrifice for an unknown person? Can you sacrifice for an unknown nation? Can you give help? Like India has been giving vaccine to all, the deserving and poor countries of the world. Can we become like that? That is real emotional balance. That is the highest emotional quotient. Then, of course, as I told you, if you ask a corrupt person, emotion again, negative emotion, says, why do you take so many bribes? He says, my son wants branded clothes, my daughter wants a branded thing, the most expensive cell phone, and my wife wants jewelry, so and so wants this, so and so wants that. All greed, emotion. Remember Sri Ramakrishna's mother, it seems, Mathur Babu, who was so rich, asked her, he used to call her grandmother, grandmother, what should I get you? She says, oh, don't need anything. I have 4 saris, I have enough to eat, I have a glass, I have a plate, I have oil for my hair, I have the river to bathe, I don't need anything. Then he kept saying, I can get you anything, thousands and thousands of rupees thing he was willing to give. She said, get me 2 paisa of tobacco so that I can make some, powder for brushing my teeth. Imagine the mother of the avatara, that is what he said. He said, only a mother like this Chandramani Devi could have produced a son like Sri Ramakrishna. Can you imagine? Greed. We will have one session, need and greed. I will tell you more about it. But today I would end by reminding you again that first, recognize your own emotions and the emotions of others. Second, respect your own emotions, others' emotions, both negative and positive. Third is use only as much emotion as is necessary, not too much, not too less. That is, regulate your emotions. Thank you and namaste.